You've read the title of the video and seen the thumbnail, so let's just get straight into it. Let's start with a manga about making manga. In a twisted Freaky Friday type situation, Dragon and Chameleon tells a story about two manga artists. One is a world-renowned genius, a dragon in the industry. Another is a no-name manga artist with the ability to mimic any art style that ever exists. A chameleon. One thing leads to another and the two manga artists swap bodies. Now the chameleon becomes the dragon and the dragon starts at the bottom once again to prove that he can surpass his own masterpiece. This kind of meta storytelling is so fascinating to me as someone who is obsessed with manga. It reminds me a lot of Bakuman, another manga about making manga but from the authors of Death Note. It's the same battle shonen format, but Dragon and Chameleon feels more gritty and fast-paced. It's got a dark edgy side that can be felt from the character expressions and hyperbolic imagery. The art is breathtaking, especially the double page spreads that jumps out of the pages. They feel so tangible and alive. Minor spoilers for this part, but I love the arc where the main character faces off against the second greatest manga artist of the current generation. The way the author presented how hard it is to come up with a revolutionary story, from the anxiety and impatience that every author feels at the start, swimming in a sea of rusted weathered ideas, and how most people, when they finally arrive at that ripe, shiny idea, gets complacent and tunnel visions, refusing to dive even deeper, which is relatable honestly. Nobody knows what the future holds, and throwing an already amazing idea for an even more revolutionary one that might not even come is psychopathic behavior. But that's what you need in order to become one of the greats, and they illustrated that beautifully in this manga. It made me think of an interview or a tweet from Tite Kubo, the author of Bleach, addressing his haters. He said that it's hard to write a story, so if the only thing that they do is complain about it, then just shut your bitch ass up and draw a better manga than him. I'm paraphrasing here obviously, but he really said that, and that was very base of him to say. I only have respect for manga artists because weekly chapter release is a goddamn superpower. Sometimes they even sacrifice their own health just to give us quality work. The manga industry in Japan is so cutthroat and unforgiving, especially the Shonen Jump magazine, and you see all of that in this manga. So if you're like me who is obsessed with manga and likes to know more about the manga industry but in a battle shonen format, read Dragon and Chameleon. This is a certified S tier for sure. A must read. One, the genius behind One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100 has a brand new manga. Versus. It's better than Garo sliding through the grass, that's for sure. This adaptation is fucking cook. But going back to Versus, the story is so basic you would have thought it's some kind of isekai slop. The Great Demon King has conquered most of the land and 47 heroes rise up to defeat the 47 demon lords under his reign. That's basically what the story is all about. But there's a twist. This is gonna be a massive spoiler, so you have been warned. I'll be spoiling the end of chapter 1. So, while the heroes get their asses kicked by the demons, a secret plan was devised for all mages to travel all over the world to draw one massive magic circle that will connect this current world to another. And they succeeded. A highly advanced civilization comes to the rescue and eliminated some demons easily. But another twist, this new world is also on the brink of extinction on the hands of advanced robots and artificial intelligence. Now both humans need to find a way to cooperate to save both of their worlds. If that is compelling enough for you, then you should read it now or skip to the next manga, because this next part is another massive twist for those of you who is still not satisfied. I'll be spoiling up to chapter 4 now. So, after our main characters goes back to humanity's only fortress, they find out that there are more worlds that get connected to their own. 13 in total. And in these worlds, every variants of humanity are on the brink of extinction from a whole new set of different natural enemies. Whether it be against parasites, kaijus, aliens, curses, or God himself, humanity is done for unless they can come up with a strategy together. Now, that's how you set up a goddamn story. Subvert expectations and deliver on them. I give Versus an A for now. We'll see where the story takes us. This could be an S in the future. Not gonna lie, I started reading this manga purely because of the covers. I mean, look at them. They look very striking and unique. And then you open the first volume and this is the page that greets you. I was intrigued because of the cover, but now I'm locked the fuck in. After God is set in a world where gods exist and they are roaming the earth. Cities where a god stays become danger zones because it only takes a quick stare at them for you to be hypnotized and burst into water. They can't be viewed through mirrors and camera lenses, so nobody really knows how a god looks like. But those who stared and lived to tell the tale says that they are the most beautiful thing in the world and you feel a burst of happiness just by seeing them. Humanity tried to eradicate the gods but nothing works. They've tried everything. Guns, missiles, even nuclear bombs. Nothing. Which means that they are here to stay. The story follows Waka, a high school girl with the eyes of a god, trying to avenge her best friend who was killed by one. On her way to a danger zone, she stumbles upon Tokinaga, a researcher at the Anti-God Research Institute, and they team up to find a way to finally kill a god. This manga started as a commentary about the rising suicide cases in Japan. The story frames it as the god's fault, which is true in a sense, but the manga also poses the question that if we remove the gods from the equation and people still choose to kill themselves but just in a different way, then who are we going to blame? And then it became a battle shonen. What though? But I'm not complaining. The messaging on the first few chapters was great, but I also equally enjoyed the fights. And as you've seen from the manga panels that I've shown, the art is gorgeous. When it locks in, the details are out of this world. Straight up jaw-dropping even. If you like dark edgy shonen like Chainsaw Man, then I think you'll enjoy After God. I give this one a low A. I don't know anything about makeup, modeling, or just the fashion and beauty industry in general. My only exposure to that world is I watched The Devil Wears Prada once and the occasional fashion models and makeup tutorials on TikTok and Shorts. But I always find myself fascinated about stories told in those settings. This started for me with mangas like My Dress Up Darling and 2.5D Seduction, both about cosplaying, and then I found Smile Down the Runway, which is about modeling and fashion design, and now Bless, which is about makeup. The story follows Aya, a model and an aspiring makeup artist. Being paired with Jun, a gloomy and tall classmate with freckles for a school fashion event, they subverted everyone's expectations by Aya being the makeup artist even though the whole school is expecting him to model because of his modeling background, and Jun being the actual model despite of her gloomy exterior. After this, the manga explores the world of makeup artists, which brought a whole lot of makeup terms that I don't understand. But honestly, it doesn't matter because even though I don't know anything about makeup, and I'd assume you, the viewer, don't know a whole lot too, the human story about chasing your dreams, being rejected over and over again, feeling untalented and inexperienced on the professional world, struggling on being different, and how hard work always pays off, I'm sure those struggles and emotions will resonate with you on a human level. The art is very pretty, but this being a manga limits the art in some ways because as a story about makeup, you can't really showcase the makeup to its fullest potential without color. Being in a black and white format, some of the magic is unfortunately lost, so sometimes it doesn't work. But when it does work, you'll fall in love with the story and characters even deeper. The manga tries to describe and add flavor text as much as possible to accentuate the makeups, so that helps a lot too. When I started reading this manga, I didn't know anything about makeup. And in some way, I still don't. But when I see the characters glow up and be confident both in their runway and in their day-to-day lives while wearing their armament, the lightest armor in the world which is their makeup, I started to learn a little. And I know a lot of you will probably skip this one because it's very niche, but I think it's time to widen your horizon. I give Bless a solid B. One of my favorite genres in manga is dark fantasy, but aside from Berserk and Claymore, I have not seen one with the right amount of grim and explosive storytelling. Most of the time they're too bloody and too edgy, which puts me off. But Centuria is a breath of fresh air with its unique introduction. The story starts in a ship with 100 slaves and one stowaway, Julian. On the way to their destination, Julian befriended some of the slaves, and he got close to one in particular, Mira, a pregnant woman. They bonded in the few days that they've known each other, and aside from the shitty slave merchants, everything seems to be going great. But when the ship was pulled through a Bermuda Triangle type patch of ocean, the captain decides to kill every slaves to lighten the load of the ship. It was a complete massacre. Everyone tried to save the pregnant woman and child, but to no avail. When Julian and Mira were about to be killed, time suddenly stopped. Everything halted to a standstill, and a Lovecraftian being with tentacles emerged from the ocean and granted Julian with the power of 100 slaves in exchange of a life that is closest to him, Mira. This means that Julian now has the power and speed of 100 slaves, and not only that, 100 lives as well. But before Mira sacrificed herself, she cut out her baby from her stomach and entrusted it to Julian. He then killed every slave merchant in the ship and sailed to land. All of that in just the first chapter. The story then became a slice of life for a few chapters, which was a refreshing setup, and then it kicks off again as it introduces another Lovecraftian being in the forest. The king is immortal and has godlike powers, there's a prophecy being foretold, and there's another human who also has the same power as Julian. This is the most exciting dark fantasy manga that I've read in a while. And of course, the art is incredible as well. It's a rite of passage at this point for every dark fantasy manga author to have insane art style and skills. Every page is so detailed, every monster design feels dreadful and menacing, and every fight scene has great choreography as well. The author is also a former assistant of Tatsuki Fujimoto of Chainsaw Man. Bro, I swear to God, every former assistant of Fujimoto that debuts becomes a worldwide hit. That man's office runs the manga industry at this point. Oh, and I almost forgot, there's a thick woman as well. Need I say more? If you like dark fantasy, this is it. I put Centuria at a high A, low S. But if this is not whimsical and fantasy enough for you, then Tower Dungeon might be the one that you're looking for. It's also an amazing dark fantasy manga from the same author that did Blam. Those random liminal sci-fi megastructures that you randomly see online, it's from that manga. But in his latest work, which is Tower Dungeon, he moves away from the sci-fi storytelling and art, rigid and mathematical, and embraces the fantasy genre. Sloppy but free-flowing, thanks to his complete art style change. But the one thing that will always be there in Chutomi Nihi's work is the giant mega structures. The flavor changed, but it's still there. I think that's his specialty at this point. As for the story, Tower Dungeon is about a group of misfits from different walks of life ending up finding themselves in the Dragon Tower. Each one having different motivations on why they are on the tower, but decides on teaming up together in order to defeat the Necromancer and rescue the kidnapped princess. I know the premise sounds simple, but it's bigger than that. This manga throws you in the middle of the story without explaining anything. There's no hand-holding and the author treats the reader as competent and smart. You get sucked into this living, breathing world with expansive lore. It feels like being transported into a new world that feels both familiar and unique at the same time. I haven't seen such intricate world building like this in a while. The design of both the titular Tower Dungeon and the monsters inside it are also very unique and novel. The art style, like I said earlier, feels sloppy but intentional, far from the rigid and liminal feeling of Nihi's previous works. His character designs improved massively as well. Not gonna lie, on my first read, the early chapters I put at B because I was still not used to the type of storytelling it has. But when I catch my groove and finally got the ball rolling, it quickly shuts up to an S. Insurance companies. Wait, hear me out. What if there's an intergalactic insurance company that insures every alien that plans to live on Earth? That is what Cosmos is all about. The story follows Rin, an insurance investigator who deals with alien insurance problems on Earth. From stolen intergalactic spaceships to life insurance for an alien who's dying because of a common cold. Cosmos, the insurance company, also deals with kidnap for ransom, alien malwares used in fraudulent activities, and extraterrestrial bioweapon organisms. They wear black suits, erases people's memories. This is basically Men in Black but in manga. I give Cosmos a B with the potential of climbing up the rankings as the story deepens. The story is set in Silent Bay City, in the backdrop of 1950s America. The war just ended and then industrial innovation swept the whole country, resulting in new cultures and mass production and mass consumption. The gap between the rich and poor became so wide that the only way to escape poverty is to join gangs. The whole city is run by a single gang organization, the Lakeside Fellas. We follow Jimmy, a rookie gangster who's doing everything in his power to become a full-fledged member of the organization. On the way to a meetup, he happened to see his boss's car parked in the forbidden shed under the organization. When he took a peek inside, he saw someone eating a whole human and multiple bodies hanging on the ceiling. It turns out his boss was a vampire and the whole city is governed by a gang of them. When his boss saw him and was about to end his life, a jet black monstrosity helped him and devoured the vampire completely. A man then blew up the shed and introduced himself as K, one of the Night Hounds, an anti-vampire team tasked on annihilating every vampire in the city. From the vibe, setting, and plot of this manga, it's surprising to think that it's from a Japanese author because it heavily reminds me of Western novels in the same genre. Even the art style feels like it's straight out of American comics. It reminds me a lot of Baccano, both in style and themes. It feels mature and adult, which is honestly a breath of fresh air. It's a story about vampires, werewolves, and gangsters, which has been done to death, but this one feels fresh and unique enough to stand out. If you're bored of the same shonen manga slop, this would be a surprisingly entertaining read. I give Nightlight Hounds an A. Being an anime fan and also a fan of dancing is quite tough because there's a drought when talking about dancing in anime. The only animes that I can think of that are solely about dance is either about ballroom dancing or competitive ice skating, and I'm already grasping at straws with that one. Outside of that, we get the occasional dance sequences like the Chika dance, the Lucky Star opening, and Hare Hare Yukai from Harui for all you millennials out there, the Kyokai no Kanata dance scene, and that one dude in Dimension W. And if you're really desperate, you have no choice but to become an idol fan. So when Madhouse announced that they will be animating one of my favorite dance manga, which is One Dance, I was ecstatic as fuck. Then the trailers came out and oh boy, my dick has never been flaccid because what the fuck is this?
Brother,
Because this adaptation doesn't exist, right guys? There's nowhere in Ba Sing Se. What do you mean? Just read One Dance. It's an amazing dance manga from an author who used to be a dancer and really knows what he's talking about. His knowledge is very apparent from how he presents and introduces dance concepts, showcasing different styles of dance and the subcultures within the art. The story is about a high school boy named Kabo who had an embarrassing dance memory as a child, so he hated it ever since. But all of it changed when he sees Wanda, his classmate, dancing in the hallway freely. Kabo also has a stutter, so all his life he's had a problem communicating with people, but when him and Wanda joined their school dance club, he overcame his hate for dancing and also found another way to express himself through dancing. It's a beautiful story about finding your passion in life and figuring out different ways to express yourself. I know what you're thinking. Surely a manga about dancing can't possibly capture how electric and dynamic dancing is compared to when you're actually watching it live, right? The author begs to disagree because the way he displays and draws movements are so expressive and raw that you can feel the energy through the pages. You just need a little bit of imagination and also actual music. Listening to the songs that are featured in this manga while reading it helped me a lot on setting the tone and vibe of each dance routines. So when Bruno Mars, Shawn Mendes, or Drake's song comes up, I just put on my headphones and listen to their songs while reading the manga. It can also help on visualizing the dance moves even better with the tempo of the songs. There's a Spotify playlist of every song that was used in this manga, and I link it below so you can also do this forbidden strat. Read One Dance while listening to music. It's the best. I give it an A. For the final one is a horror manga unlike anything that you've seen before. It literally starts with giving you a floor plan of a house and asking you if there's anything peculiar in its layout. As an engineering graduate, this piqued my interest right away because I've also designed some floor plans before. And if you just take a few minutes to examine it, you'll see that this house is very fucking strange. On the first floor, in the kitchen area, there's a mysterious space that seems to serve no purpose at all. Maybe the owner planned to install a closet there for the room, or maybe a cupboard for the kitchen but abandoned the plan altogether. That will make sense. Nothing strange at all for now. But if you look at the second floor layout, things start to get creepy because this room in the middle doesn't have any windows whatsoever. It also has a double door for some reason and just a toilet inside. This suggests that the owners of this house traps their child inside in solitary confinement. The couple's bed is also placed near the door to prevent the child from ever escaping their view. Another strange thing is, outside the room, there's so many windows, which is a stark contrast with the middle room. The changing room is also very open and has no doors. The strangeness arises from the imbalance between the isolated middle room and the free and open outside. And if you stack the first and second floor layout and superimpose them, another disturbing thing will come to light. But I'll let you discover that for yourself. I only spoiled the first chapter for you guys and there's still so much mystery to be unfolded. I'd say if you enjoy fucked up traditions and the effects that it has on people, then you definitely need to check this out. I give The Strange House a low S. I ended up finishing this one around 4 AM because I was so locked in. And that's it. Enjoy the recommendations and subscribe for more manga recommendation videos like this one. If you're looking for a manga app for your Android phone, check this video out.